So what's the first story you think we should start with? I know you mentioned you have a few here, and we have some show and tell. We got some clips going on.
We do. Well, I'll tell you what I tell everybody is that the Blennerhassett Hotel is kind of Grand Central Station for the spirits. I mean, the stuff that happens there, the consistency, any time of day, it really is unusual, especially in haunted hotels. You might have one haunted room or one spirit. It's not that way at all at the Blennerhassett. So I would say our most famous spirit, or infamous, if you want to call it that, has been around since the most recent renovation in the 1980s. And he has been referred to for most of the time as the bowler hat man. Pretty ominous.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started these tours, we were having some interactions with guests from this particular spirit. It seemed to be kind of increasing. So I wanted to try and figure out who this guy could be.
Mm-hmm.
I inherited a lot of historical research from Susan Shepard, who has passed on, but she ran Haunted Parkersburg for 30 years. In Parkersburg, she was a medium, astrologist, psychic, and found out that in the 1860s, Parkersburg actually had a serial killer. Not a lot of people know about it. His name was Joseph Eisele. He went by John Schaefer. And reason for that being he immigrated from Germany 3 years prior because he was wanted for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So a few years after he got in Parkersburg, he got started again with the murders, and they were particularly gruesome. He was known as the Hatchet Slayer. Well, it turns out that the first of these murders took place across the street from the hotel, and it was formerly a saloon. It's a government building now. And so I thought like it might be transferring or something like that. The physical description of the bowler hat man fit him exactly. So I thought that might be it. Come to find out from a 1950s article, his apartment actually was on the site where the hotel stands now. And he killed his third victim in his apartment. So we started having things match up, including the physical description of the bowler hat man is just under 6 feet, light eyes, straight nose, certain type of build. And the picture I showed you of him here, this is a drawing, but it's a cover to basically the written confession or autobiography that Eisele was permitted to write when he was eventually caught for the benefit of his wife and daughter. So in this manuscript, which you can still get on Amazon today for like $12, he self-described 5'11", blue-gray eyes, straight nose, exact right type of build. And when I started kind of introducing this information on tours, the sightings of the bowler hat man got more and more frequent until eventually he started responding. So he's one of the most cited ghosts in the hotel today. Seems to like the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you tell, like, oh, yeah, that's that ghost? How do you tell, how can you tell, like, who's who?
You can't always, to be honest. We're still working on a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's ultimately up to the spirit to self-identify if they wish to do so. In this case, the first tip-off that I got, because I was pretty lost, honestly, I was leading a ghost tour in room 409, which is one of the most haunted suites. And there was a bridal party in there. It's super popular for weddings, if you can believe that.
That's fun.
Yeah. And so the bride actually caught the tail end of the ghost tour that was going on outside of 409. And she pulled me aside afterwards and said, I might have a story for you. She'd left her phone charging, her smartphone, charging on the table, gone down to the lounge to have lunch, came back. She had 100 missed calls from 911. So of course she calls them back. And they said, we're about to send a unit over because we just had breathing, hang up multiple times. So it triggered my memory because we had the exact same activity happen during COVID in 2020 from that government building across the street.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty unique. That's not your EVP or your orb or whatever.
Right.
So the only notable thing that's happened in that building is those murders. And so I thought it was jumping over, and it wasn't until I got a hold of former blueprints of Parkersburg and confirmation from the article that it was the same location, because prior to the hotel being built, that site was a lot of things. It's really central to downtown and the rivers, but it was a bakery with dwelling units, or apartments as you would call them, on top. And in this article, it mentions that Joseph Eisele was a resident on the corner of 4th and Market, bakery with dwelling units on top. And so that mixed with the physical description of the spirit matching his self-written physical description. And then the increase in activity directly after, he kind of outed himself, to be honest. But since then, we have been able to contact him more frequently. Not sure why he's still hanging around Parkersburg, seeing as he was only there for 4 years. But it's worth noting that he was the last public execution in Wood County. It was a field at the time. It's now the Dills Cemetery. So he was executed there, a crowd of over 5,000 people. And his body is still in that unmarked grave today. He might still have descendants in the area. So that might be why he's still hanging around.
Wow. How many people did he murder? Do we know?
That we know of in Parkersburg, officially 3. But he was wanted for murder out of Germany. He had a period of time where he was in the Pope's army stationed in Rome and then deserted, which was not uncommon for the time. But there was also a weird lull in between the first 2 murders that took place in the month of June, and then he didn't kill again until December. So we don't know whether or not he actually did anything then, but officially in Parkersburg 3, he was caught on the 4th attempted murder.
So for your tour, is he like a mischievous spirit, or, does that make sense? Or like, what kind of attitude does he have?
It's funny you say that, because when he was first sighted in the 80s, people thought it was a poltergeist at first. There's a lot of activity in the basement dry storage that would be similar to that, like sort of a fun house feeling when you walk in the room, or things getting thrown off. And it was only when he started appearing next to that activity that we figured out it was associated to him. But it really fluctuates. He'd said himself in his written confession, which he urged people to remain religious and not, follow down the same path he had, that he'd always sort of had these dark urges. So I think mentally he was in a very dark place, maybe had some issues and whatnot. But the mood is dependent on the day. So his execution was March 16th. And around this time of year, it gets a lot darker than it would be otherwise. But he usually is very active when we're in 409. It's clear he likes the attention. But you never know what version of him you're going to get. It just really depends on the day.
That's fun. Do you have a specific story or place that you take guests to talk about him on the tour, or and what happens there?
So I usually start in the basement just talking about it, but 409 seems to be his sort of current dwelling unit. We don't know exactly where his apartment would have been in the building, but he's always hung out there. And we've had just a variety of things. He is really active in manipulating electronics and equipment. We've only had somebody get physically touched once. But when we ran our first paranormal convention a few years ago, that was also the first overnight paranormal investigation that had ever taken place in the building. And it was March 18th. I didn't know at the time the correlation. So that darker energy was present. And so when we got to about 3 o'clock in the morning in 409, it started getting really, really heavy. And we actually, at one point, 6 of us audibly heard, not on an EVP or equipment or anything, like a sort of choking and gargling sound, almost like someone was being hung. And we've just had variety of things happen in that room specifically. But he's known to, if I don't go in there for too long and I choose to go in another room for the ghost tour and do the paranormal investigation there, he'll sometimes interrupt. Really, he does love the attention, which, is a thing for serial killers, I think, some of the time anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Very charismatic. I mean, he had a wife and a kid, so someone could stand him,
Yeah, apparently so. She did remarry not long after. Can't blame her.
Oh, really? Yeah.